All right, as preseason games go, Saturday's 49ers game against the Raiders was certainly an interesting one. And what we saw in the first 49ers preseason game against the Broncos and the top performances didn't necessarily match up with what happened in Las Vegas. Some of the guys who played well against the Broncos didn't fare as well against the Raiders and vice versa. And so, it's kind of been an up and down preseason for a lot of these guys. And heck, in the case of Jake Moody, it was an up and down game after he really wasn't tested much at all against the Broncos. Moody started the game rough, missing a 53-yarder ball that he didn't strike well, that started left and stayed left. And then his 26-yarder where he just kind of shanked it, but it still managed to squeak in. But then it ends the game on a high note, and his best kick, even the 44-yarder that tied the game with 37 seconds remaining in regulation. Of course, there is no overtime in the preseason. That one, it just kind of seemed to just kind of dovetail in, and it didn't look super steady. But the 59-yarder that he hit to win the game, the walk-off kick, struck it very well. And one of the things he said after the game was that it was the same operation, still the same two-step approach that he's implemented this year. He said the operation was great, the snap was great, the hold was great, and he was able to see the ball for a while. And so that's one of the things that the 49ers have worked on under new special teams coordinator Brant Boyer, is just tightening up the operation so the snap gets back there quicker, and Moody has more time with a two-step approach to see the ball before stepping into it and kicking it. So another thing with Jake Moody, he said he's been working with a sports performance coach who stresses process over the outcome. So in other words, keep it simple. Don't think about what happened in the past. Don't think about what might happen in the future. When it's your number, when your number is called and it's your turn to kick, keep the same process of, going onto the field the same way, taking a practice kick the same way, and just going through the same operation that he said, he's had thousands of reps doing. So keeping it that way. Does it guarantee that Jake Moody is going to be the starter or the kicker when the regular season starts? I think so. I think it was going to take a lot for the 49ers to move off of Moody. Do I understand the fan base or some portion of the fan base not being totally confident in Jake Moody at this stage as he enters his third year in the NFL? Absolutely. I can see that too, because it just seems like the consistency is the thing that he needs to hone in on and just get better at, as far as the ball striking and winning the confidence of everybody. But I think that really starts with winning the confidence of himself. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of the grades from this game, and it's a little bit of the eyeball test, but it's also a lot of the PFF grades. They posted their grades from this 49ers game against the Raiders. So we'll go into just kind of the highest grades and the lowest grades, the guys who stood out for the good things, and I guess some of the guys who stood out for the not so good things. I don't think it's any big surprise, just based on, again, the eyeball test. The highest graded 49ers players out of this game: Brock Purdy, who completed his first 5 passes; Demarcus Robinson, who had a nice day as a wide receiver. Well, the next 3 guys are all wide receivers: Demarcus Robinson, Ricky Pearsall, and Robbie Chosen. So those 3 guys, Robinson and Chosen, veteran players. Robbie Chosen, the former Robbie Anderson. Those guys have a lot of experience and some success in the NFL. And then Ricky Pearsall, who's been the 49ers' best wide receiver in training camp. From a pass blocking standpoint, the 49ers' best players were Dominic Puni, Jake Brendel, and Colton McKivitz. They all played that first series. They all had completely clean pass block sheets. And then Spencer Burford had a nice bounce back game for him, allowing only 1 pressure in 27 pass block snaps, that according to PFF. Now, The worst grades for the 49ers, and these are the offensive linemen, Connor Colby allowed 2 pressures. Drew Moss allowed 3 hurries. Colby, the 7th-round pick from Iowa, Drew Moss, the undrafted rookie from Colorado State. Those are 2 guys that Kyle Shanahan identified as guys who played very well in that game against the Broncos and graded out very highly in the 49ers on their ledger as well as with PFF. And then the other guys who did not have great grades, Isaac Alarcon, Nick Zakelj, and Isaiah Prince. With Zakelj and Prince, 3 pressures apiece allowed from those guys. And in the case of Prince, well, Prince had 2 false starts and Zakelj had 1 false start. The best guys for run blocking were Isaiah Prince, Nick Zakelj, Alarcon, Moss, and Drake Nugent. So it's kind of funny. The guys who didn't do well in pass blocking did well in run blocking. And then for the 49ers, the worst grades as far as the run blocking part of it were kind of the same thing. The guys who didn't fare particularly well in that part of it were, I had to pause there for a second because my screen went blank. The worst grades for the run blocking, McKivitz, Austin Pleasant, Spencer Burford, Dominic Pooney, Brindle, and Colby. So, the McKivitz and Pooney grade, there was that play where you couldn't really tell who was at fault. It looked like McKivitz passed off Max Crosby to Pooney, and Pooney didn't get over there, and Crosby absolutely blew up the play. So that was the good and the bad. My overall take with Dominic Pooney being out for several weeks with the knee injury is that I'm not sure right now. Well, I think Ben Bartch is I say clearly, but Ben Bartch is the next best guard. And certainly the presumptive starter at left guard when he gets healthy, coming off that elbow injury. And then I think there's not a whole lot of separation with Nick Zakelj and Connor Colby. So if a starter is needed in place of Pooney to open the regular season, my guess would be right now it would be Zakelj, just because of his experience and the fact that he's been working over there at right guard a lot. But theoretically, the door would be open for Connor Colby to start week 1 if Pooney is not available. Okay, the defensive grades, the best grades, and a lot of this stuff is, it matches up with the eyeball test. Jalen Mahoney with the interception late in the game to set up the winning field goal. Chase Lucas had the interception as well. So those 2 guys graded out the highest, followed by Luke Gifford, Kalia Davis, Chaz Surratt, and Saran Neal. So all those guys made plays. They all stood out. And it's very obvious to see why PFF graded those guys. Nick Martin didn't grade as highly as maybe I would have thought. But all that said, or not all, I didn't really say a whole lot, but he was much better in this game against the Raiders than he was against the Broncos, where he just had so many missed tackles. Now, was it clean? No, he still had 2 missed tackles against the Raiders, but he said the biggest thing for him in this game was just to stay calm. He said last week against the Broncos, he was just too amped up and he wanted to make every tackle a kill shot. And in this one, he just played under control a little bit more. He gave up some plays in coverage, but he also had the nice pass breakup down the field. So all in all, definitely a bounce back game for Nick Martin, who I'm sure graded out, toward the bottom, if not at the bottom, last week against the Broncos. This week there was noticeable improvement with the pass breakup, also the sack, and a couple of tackles that were just good stops. The worst grades, according to PFF, from the guys, the regulars. We're not going to count the defensive linemen who showed up 2 days ago or anything like that. So these are the names that were more toward the bottom. Darrell Luter, the cornerback who had been competing for the basically the number 3 outside cornerback spot, not the slot, but just on the outside. So, the presumptive starters, well, Diamondor Lenore is a starter. Renardo Green hasn't been healthy in 3 weeks now with the hamstring injury. In his place, Dallas Flowers has been playing and doing well and really separating, I think, himself from Darrell Luter, who is very much in danger of losing a spot on the 53-man roster. So Luter did not have a good game. Evan Anderson and Alfred Collins, interior defensive linemen for the 49ers, those guys didn't have good games. And, for Collins, a lot of attention on him because he's a second-round pick, but, very clearly just has to work on some technique stuff. The good news for him is that he is staying healthy. He's getting a lot of practice time. He's getting a lot of reps in the preseason. So there is that opportunity for him to show improvement. And, the big thing with him is just, that leverage, that trying to keep a low center of gravity when that's not really easy when you're 6'5". Other guys who did not grade out necessarily well for the 49ers, according to PFF, D. Winters and Sebastian Valdez. So that's kind of the rundown. A lot of what what it looked like is the way the grades were, which always is good to kind of match up the eyeballs with the grading score. So 49ers will be looking for more consistency coming up in this next week. The preseason game against the Chargers, they're looking for consistency across the board, of course, beginning with their kicker and then filtering down through their entire offense and defense as these guys continue to battle for not only roster spots, but playing time as well. So that's it. Thanks for watching this video, and that is it for now.